Real Virginia is proudly produced by the Virginia Farm Bureau Federation. Since 1926, Farm Bureau has been working to preserve Virginia farms and our rural heritage. Visit our website at vafb.com.
Hello everyone and welcome to Real Virginia, a show about Virginia agriculture and the people who produce the wonderful local products we enjoy. Brought to you by the Virginia Farm Bureau. Bison are roaming the range in Virginia. Chef Tammy Brawley shows us a classic summer vegetable dish. And we're in the peak of summer vegetable season, including squash.
Home will always be Virginia, between the Blue Ridge and Chesapeake Bay, Atlantic to Appalachia, home in my heart always.
Welcome back to Real Virginia, everyone. We're coming to you this week from Lakeside Farmers Market in Henrico County, where vegetable season is in full swing. More on that in a few minutes, but first, let's visit a few Virginia bison farms with Norm Hyde.
Bison hold a unique fascination in American history and culture. These majestic animals were almost hunted to extinction in the 19th century for their meat and hides, but they've been slowly rebuilding numbers, both in the wild and at farms like Melrose Bison in Campbell County. Owner Mike Morris says they started building their bison herd almost 20 years ago. He's learned the hard way that bison are true wild animals.
You can't walk out amongst them and pet them on the head or anything like that.
Morris says he's had to run for the fence several times while working his herd. All of their equipment and fencing is heavy duty. A mature bison can weigh more than a ton and turn on a dime.
The main thing is keeping them very calm, because they're incredible athletes. I mean, they can go 0 to 40 miles an hour literally in an instant. A full-grown bull can clear a 6-foot fence with one step. I mean, I describe them as a deer on steroids.
At the Virginia Bison Company in Culpeper County, they've been raising bison since 1999 and are quite familiar with the challenges of managing them. Co-owner Rob Ferguson says once most of their herd escaped, thanks to a rusty chain on a gate.
And they ended up running towards the town of Culpeper. So we spent an entire day. Thankfully, we don't chase our bison when we move them, we lead them. So we've trained them to a bucket of some grain and some hooping and hollering sounds that we make. And so we just went out there and spread out and started calling. There were about 250 bison out.
You could tell the animals were enjoying it, and then it was kind of fun, getting to wrangle them back up on four-wheelers and, get them all back in. And they really got into their wild mode and were jumping and kicking and just acting a fool, basically. And it was a real treat to get to see them like that.
Morris says bison is a good niche market for him and his father to get into a few years ago. Bison meat is extremely lean, high in B vitamins, and has a healthy ratio of omega fatty acids. And many consumers say it tastes sweeter than beef. He sells at a local farmer's market, to several restaurants, and directly to customers.
Just about every one of them say, it's the best meat they've ever tasted in their life. They love it. I mean, I've got, regular customers that buy every week, and that's the main meat they buy. And they continually rave about it. And I can understand why. It's a fantastic meat.
Ferguson says Virginia Bison Company started selling at farmers markets many years ago and still goes to a market in Arlington. Other customers order bison meat through a home food delivery service. And a few come right to the farm to see the bison up close and often take home some meat.
We have a self-guided tour. So we give them a map, tell them which pastures the bison are in that day, because we rotate them every 2 or 3 days. And then they just take a walk and they can have a picnic lunch. People bring food and do their own thing. And some people spend the whole day here. Some people spend about an hour and maybe buy a couple of things in the store and head back.
The COVID-19 pandemic has given both bison farmers a big boost in business, especially in the spring when some other types of meat were hard to find in the grocery store. Like other local meat producers, their animals are processed in a USDA-inspected meat plant. But only a few plants can handle an animal as large as a mature bison. They're physically dangerous to manage, require expensive heavy-duty fencing and equipment, and they're hard to process. Why keep raising bison? There's a mystique to them that keeps these farmers coming back.
The value of the experience far exceeds the fact that it's been not super lucrative. It's doing well, don't get me wrong, but as compared to having a job in an office you could make a lot more money doing something else, but you can't have this experience without, so.
Like when a front comes through and the weather changes, they'll get out here and just chase each other around the pasture at a full run for 15 minutes, and their tongues hanging out, and they just sit there and they got this little goofy grin on their face, and they've had a great time, and they ran, they stopped, and you'll sit there and just watch them for 30 minutes. So they're amazing animals.
There were 8 bison farms scattered across the Old Dominion in 2017, and bison farming is slowly growing in popularity. Bison is still a specialty meat at some restaurants and farmers markets, but it's available online if you want to try it and don't have time to hunt it down locally. In Culpeper County, Virginia, I'm Norm Hyde. In Culpeper County, Virginia, I'm Norm Hyde.
While both bison and beef cattle are raised in pastures in Virginia and require similar equipment, the beef industry is far larger. Beef cattle are raised on 18,729 farms statewide. Total cattle numbers fluctuate from year to year, but in 2017 there were nearly 826,000 head of cattle on Virginia farms. Cattle sales brought farmers more than $679 million in farm income that year. Most beef cattle in Virginia are raised on pasture and sold to be finished in out-of-state feedlots.
I'm Mark Viette. Coming up on In the Garden, I'm going to talk about pruning boxwoods. Stay with us.
We're stronger together, especially at this difficult time. For over 90 years, we've watched our membership grow, and we're honored to be part of such a special community. Thank you to the farmers who provide for us every day. Virginia Farm Bureau is proud to serve our members, their families, and to give back to our local communities. That's the Farm Bureau way.
Are your landscape shrubs a little out of shape? Mark Viette shows us how to prune your overachieving plants in the garden.
We move into a new house or in our existing house, time flies. Plants get big. All of a sudden, you cannot get to your front door or your garage door because the boxwoods are so big. What do? We get this question on our radio show almost every single month throughout the year. I prefer to thin out boxwoods before they get big. And this is something you can do in April, May, June, July, and beginning of August. And that is where you're going with the hand shears, and some of these long growths, you remove them. And what I'm doing is bringing the size of this boxwood down. And I'm thinning it out. This is called thinning and opening. It is the ideal way to prune boxwoods because they'll get lots of new growth in the middle. This is the best way to prune boxwoods. The other option on pruning boxwoods is to use a hedge trimmers. Sometimes it's electric, sometimes it can be by hand. So that's where you go in, and this is not my favorite method because there's a lot of leaves that have been damaged and cut, but you know, some people like that formal look. I prefer to reach in with the hand shears and thin it out. Now, the other option, which I would do with this boxwood is, it's so big, during the months of March and April, you can rejuvenate it, or what I say, whack it back. This is where you need heavier duty loppers. So I'm gonna come in. And always be careful. And I'm going to start cutting it back. So you want to cut it back, and I would say on this one here I'd cut it back to 18 inches. If you've got a huge boxwood that's 10 to 15 feet, maybe I'll cut it back to 18 to 30 inches from the ground. So you just reach in and this had been done maybe 8 years ago, we lose track of time. Plants get big quick, and we go, oh wow, what am I going to do? So you can go back in. One thing you want to make sure is that there's no bird nests inside your boxwoods before you prune them. And that's it. And sometimes you're going to find little treasures in the bottom of your boxwoods. I'm Mark Viette. Join me next time in the garden.
For more garden tips, go to inthegardenradio.com.
Hi, coming up on Heart of the Home, some ratatouille using some delicious summer vegetables. Stay with us.
And now, a sneak peek into a day in the life of a Virginia dairy cow. They get their day started. They have some lunch. Get some exercise. Spend time with their friends. And then end their day with dairy sweet dreams. Real dairy, real life, real delicious.
We're in the heart of summer vegetable season here in Virginia. Chef Tammy Brawley has a recipe for a rustic dish that will use a lot of your favorite vegetables in the heart of the home.
Hi, I'm Chef Tammy Brawley from the Green Kitchen. We're on a special location shoot out here at Old Tavern Farm in New Kent. I'm going to show you guys how to make a delicious ratatouille using these great summer vegetables we've got coming in right now. Ratatouille is based on layering flavors, and so you actually want to cook each individual vegetable first. And we're going to saute them up until they're nice and soft. Place them into a bowl, do our next layer of vegetables until it all comes together at the end, and then we'll toss it with some fresh organic tomatoes and some garlics. We have a nice warm pan here with a little bit of olive oil in it, and we're going to start with the eggplant. We've got some great graffiti eggplant from out here at New Kent at Old Tavern, and we're going to toss in some diced eggplant into our saute pan. So this is going to take a couple of minutes. We want it to get just a little bit brown, a little bit soft, not terribly soft. We can go ahead and sprinkle in some salt and pepper. Once again, you're layering the flavors. All right, so you want to have let your eggplant, the vegetable we started with, pick up a nice little brown color. And we're going to move that first vegetable into our bowl. Now, sometimes we add oil in between each vegetable. It depends on the vegetable. Eggplant is notoriously absorbent, so yes, I do want to add a little bit more oil to my pan before I start the next vegetable, which in this case is actually going to be the squash. I've got a mixture here of yellow summer squash and zucchini into the same pan as the eggplant. Once again, keep in mind, we are layering flavors. One of the things that's most important about ratatouille and really any vegetables you cook is you want to cut your vegetables the same size. If you cut one too big and one too small, one will disintegrate and the other one will be raw. So you want to keep your vegetables about the same size so they cook evenly. On top of the squashes that we've added, we're going to again add salt, and that is because we are layering flavors. We'll add a little bit of pepper as well, and then we'll let that cook for a few minutes before we move on to the bell peppers. All right, so our squash, it's got a nice color on it from being sauteed. That's now our second layer of flavor. We're going to toss that right on top of the eggplant. My pan looks a little dry, so I do want to go ahead and add a little bit more oil. And our next vegetable is going to be bell peppers. It doesn't matter what color, whatever you'd like. I'm more partial to the colored peppers than I am to the green ones. So I've got some yellow, red, and orange here. Again, we're going to toss those in a pan with a little bit of oil. And in about 5 minutes or so, these will be ready to add as our third layer of flavor to our ratatouille. All right, so at about 5 minutes or so, our bell peppers are done. They picked up a nice caramelization color. We're going to add our third layer of flavor to our ratatouille. And definitely need to add a little bit more oil for our last layer of flavor. And what we've got is some diced up onion, and I've also got some sliced garlic from right here in Old Tavern. Now I want to add the garlic in with the onion because it cushions it. If I added the garlic just by itself, it would burn real quick. So we want to add the onion and the garlic together. Get that broken up a little bit. I think it needs a little bit more oil. Looking a little dry. And then we want to do a little salt and pepper. Now, I'm not sure if you were able to catch it or not, but what I like to do when I use garlic is I actually like slices as opposed to diced. I think if you put 10 different chefs in a room, you'll get 10 different ways of doing it, but I like it sliced. I feel like it picks up flavor quite a bit more. Now, the onions won't take near as long as the bell peppers or the eggplant and the squashes. So after about 3 minutes or so, this should be ready to add our fourth and final flavor. All right, so our onions have picked up a nice caramelization color. We're going to add those to our other vegetables. We're going to mix up the vegetables. It's picked up a nice, beautiful color with those bell peppers and the squashes. And this is where I like to add a can of organic diced tomatoes. Mix in our nice diced tomatoes with that. And then our final finishing touch is fresh chopped basil. So there you have it, a delicious ratatouille using fresh summer vegetables. We hope you'll join us again for another great recipe on Heart of the Home.
Recipes from the Heart of the Home can be found on the Virginia Farm Bureau website at vafb.com, as well as on Chef Tammy Brawley's website, greenkitchenrichmond.com.
Virginia vegetable farmers raise everything from artichokes to zucchini, mostly for sale directly to the consumer through farmers markets or other direct sale methods. More than 1,800 farms raise vegetables in the Old Dominion, covering 22,664 acres. More than half of those operations are half acre in size or smaller, but they do a big business, and the number of vegetable farmers continues to grow. The value of all vegetable, melon, potato, and sweet potato sales was more than $111 million in 2017. Some of the most popular vegetables raised are snap beans, cabbage, sweet corn, tomatoes, pumpkins, and squash.
Fresh fruits and vegetables are good for you, and you can find them all over the state right now. Burke Moeller checks in with a couple of produce growers to see how things are coming along this season.
Summer is the time for vegging out, so why not do it with two of Virginia's iconic vegetables, cucumbers and summer squash. Garden experts know that botanically, squash and cucumbers are technically fruits, but they're raised and prepared like vegetables. Some of this year's crops are peaking late due to heavy rains in the late spring. But over at Old Tavern Farm in New Kent County, John Bryant likes what he sees.
Every year I've learned is a little bit different. And this year certainly so, with the late frost, and then we've had a good amount of rain. And when it's rained, we've gotten a lot of rain, well over an inch, 2 to even 3 inches of rain in a very short period of time. But we're standing here in front of our cucumber and squash field, and they have done pretty well. They're tough plants.
Bryant's family has operated Old Tavern Farm since the early 1900s, but the property dates back to the late 1600s, when it was a rest stop for travelers going between Richmond and Williamsburg. As far as the owners know, the site has been in continuous agricultural production. That kind of perspective can help during a year like 2020, where everything has been turned upside down. Like many farmers, they've learned to take the long view.
Every year we experiment a little bit. This is our second year growing celery, and that's probably not going to be super successful. We had a problem with anthracnose or celery leaf curl, but we'll try it again a third year, and maybe we'll get a good crop next year.
Thanks to COVID-19, Virginia farmers have had to deal with more than the usual challenges this year, but their hard work is paying off, just a little behind schedule.
We had rain, and then we had cool weather. You know, rain's followed by cool weather, and then it kind of put the tomato crop later this year, and squash and cucumbers and everything. So it kind of delayed things by about 15 days this year.
Craig DeBernard runs C&T Produce in Stafford County. They depend on farmers markets to get their crops to their customers. The pandemic shut all of that down earlier this year. Even when some farmers markets started opening back up, there were still limits on what customers could do when they shop. DeBernard hopes that will soon change.
You know, they can come in and point to what they want. A lot of people want to choose their own. You know, they don't want somebody putting it in a bag for them, and I don't like putting it in bags for them. I like for people to choose their own produce and what they want.
Summer squash is produced on 482 farms in Virginia, covering 838 acres. It's both low in carbs and calories and is a great source of fiber and potassium. Zucchini, yellow squash, and patty pan squash are the most common in the summertime. They generally go for between $1 and $3 a pound, according to the Virginia Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services.
Squash is very productive and relatively easy to grow. And you know, squash has been around for a long time. In North America, it's one of the earliest food sources, along with corn and beans. And that fruit will keep producing for a large portion of the summer.
Cucumbers, meanwhile, are 95% water and come in several different varieties. The most common of these are slicing, pickling, and burpless cucumbers. In Virginia, they're found on 456 farms grown over 386 acres. The average price for fresh cucumbers ranges from 50 cents to $1 each, according to the State Department of Agriculture Farmers Market Survey. But first, you have to grow them.
We haven't had rain in about 3 weeks, and we've been irrigating, and with temperatures in the 90 plus, it's kind of hard to grow vegetables in 90-degree plus temperatures, but we're doing it. We're doing it with drip irrigation and overhead irrigation, and we're sustaining, so hopefully we can get some rain here soon.
From too much rain earlier to not enough midsummer moisture, Virginia farmers are adapting to whatever Mother Nature throws at them, and they have the produce to prove it. In New Kent County, I'm Burke Moeller reporting.
We're so glad you could join us this week to celebrate all the bounty Virginia has to offer. From the kitchen to your home and garden to our beautiful wide open spaces, we are proud to say that this is Real Virginia. For everyone from the Virginia Farm Bureau, thanks for watching. Make it a great week.
Home will always be Virginia, between the Blue Ridge and Chesapeake Bay, Atlantic to Appalachia, home in my heart always.
Observe a domesticated human family in their natural habitat, known to their species as the backyard.
Hey, you think I should light it now?
I think it's good.
Yeah.
Oh dear, someone is about to burn a pile of debris that's too tall, which can start a wildfire. Wait, could it be? Blimey, it is.
It's Smokey.
It's Smokey Bear. What a legend.
Hey, it's Smokey. Sorry, it was too high. Right.
Watch as he astutely ensures that there's no wind, and how he removes some of the debris to create a smaller, safer burning pile.
No, you said make it bigger, baby. The bigger the better.
Take note of our fearless furry friend here, humans.
I appreciate it. Fist bump.
Watching you.
Smokey's done it again.
Bye, Smokey.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
You're going to need me. You're going to need us. All of us. You're going to need our help with your water, your air, your food. You're going to need our determination, our compassion. You're going to need the next generation of leaders to face the challenges the future will bring. And we promise we'll be there when you need us.